What's up, guys? If you're looking for a cheap way to get as many sets of eyes in the woods, especially if you hunt public land, this is your video. Okay guys, so if you aren't already, you should join the Saddle Hunter Facebook group because there's a lot of guys in there hunting for deals, looking for alternative options, DIY options, all kinds of cool stuff. And one of those that popped up is this trail camera. It's by Simmons. It's called the Simmons Whitetail Classic, which is a name they seem to use for all of their gear. But this is a 10 megapixel, by all intents, it looks like it's a Tasco clone. It is made by Bushnell, comes in a box with Bushnell packaging. I have called the only known supplier of this camera, which is Rogers Sporting Goods, and they have confirmed that it's a Bushnell camera. So, if you've ever used one of the Tascos, you know what you're getting in this camera. Fairly reliable, very cheap, does what it should for the money. Now the big difference between this one and the $28 option of the Tasco is the $28 Tasco comes with an 8 megapixel sensor. This one comes with a 10, which is interesting to me because the 10 megapixel Tasco runs for $38.88. At the time when I bought this, you could get them with a bulk discount for $22. They seem to have gotten rid of that deal. However, at $25, you're still getting a pretty dang reliable camera that does what it should. That's where I want to clarify some things. This is not a high-end camera. At $25, you have to have some very reasonable expectations as to what this camera can and cannot do. What I found is on the cheaper cameras, the video is the most unreliable component of this. So for this video and for the testing I didn't even fool with the video function because I'm not going to use it. It really doesn't matter to me. What you're getting out of this camera is the ability to know when deer are coming, generally speaking the quality of those deer, and to be able to do it in an area much larger than you would if you only bought 1 or 2 cameras. Here's what I mean by that. The photos on this in daylight are great. The photos at night are they leave you wanting. So generally speaking, you're going to get an idea if it's a really big buck or a really small buck, a really big doe or a smaller doe, which is all I'm looking for because I hunt public land. I don't get to target one buck. What I'm trying to accomplish, and this may be you as well, I want to inventory deer. Are they moving during daylight hours? Are they not? Are there bucks in this area? Are there not? Because a lot of times in Florida, we have basically big timber that we're hunting. We've got to identify those pockets of land that hold deer. So this is where this camera comes into play. Here's what I mean by that. I got 6 of these cameras for 130 bucks. Once you hit that mid-tier where you can start counting tines and you're getting great photos all the time, you're getting about 2 of them for the same money. I get to scout 6 different pieces of property, get fairly reliable photos, and know what's in the area. For me, that's a worthwhile trade-off, and it might be for you. It's got all the same internals as your Tasco. You just pop it open, there's on, off, your little analog switches. It's pretty standard issue. It's an easy, reliable, functional camera. Now there are 2 major disadvantages to this camera. One, it's color. A black camera is just gonna stand out in the woods. That's all there is to it. I don't like that. You know, most of the cameras I buy tend to be in these real muted colors with a camo pattern on there with a tan back so that it blends into the woods. In the woods, these 2 cameras are just going to stand out, one far more greatly than the other. The good news is that's a cheap and easy fix, and I'm going to show you how to fix that in just a second. So the second downside to this camera is the inability to lock the SD card. If you see here on my stealth cam, when I open this up, there's a latch, a lock right here, that I can run that cable through and prevent somebody from stealing the SD card. Whereas with the Tasco, it does have the cable lock features, but there's no way to lock the SD card. So you're you're giving something up there in doing so. Now, one thing that I can do to get around that is, typically speaking, when I run the cable through the back of the camera, I run the cable back through and across this little groove that's right here before I cinch it down. What that does is prevent somebody from opening up the camera without having to break it, which would be the alternative on here as well. So is it a downside? Not really, because if I'm going to put this in a place where I'm worried about it getting stolen, it's getting a cable lock anyways. Whereas if it's going deep in a swamp or somewhere that's hard to find, not so much worried about it. So there's my 2 thoughts on that. Now in the next section, I'm going to show you how to take this from looking obvious and easy to see to something that's a little more camouflaged like this one. Alright, so here's the deal. Here's what the camera looked like originally, here's what it looks like now. And all I did was I went and grabbed some tan spray paint, some brown or dark green spray paint, and then I grabbed a sponge. I'm not going to show you guys how to sponge paint these cameras. You can see how it turns out. It took me maybe, I don't know, 2-3 minutes to do 4 of these, which is stupid easy. And when it flakes off, I'll just take a brush to it, knock off the remainder, and do it again. If you want to see a video on how to sponge paint, G2 Outdoors has got an awesome video on how to do it to your Hawk helium sticks. Same basic premise applies here. Obviously, you're going to try and avoid these 3 main components. So, is it perfect? No. But for 25 bucks, for $130 to get $6 cameras out there, I think it's pretty worthwhile. So you can judge the photos by yourself. I'm gonna drop those again for you guys to look at. But I think all in all, this is a fantastic camera for the money. And when comparing it to the more expensive stealth cams, or just any camera in general, I think it's a really great option for you to check out. So if you're stuck at home, your kids like to paint, you're bored, or it's just hot as can be like it is right now for me here in Florida, this seems like an easy way to get a bunch of cameras in the woods, hide them effectively, and get some good photos. So if you enjoyed this video, consider joining the Patreon group. The money that's raised from there goes directly into this show, and one of the things we do to say thank you is we give away gear 4 times a year. And right now we're giving away a set of Timber Ninja C1 carbon fiber tree sticks. These jokers are like 1.2 pounds each, double step. Really cool. There's a link below to a podcast that we did with them. And if you're interested in winning that and supporting the show, the link's below to Patreon. We'd love to have you over there.